Okay, Mike Bobo has been named the offensive coordinator at Georgia. It's breaking earlier today over on Dog Post. Georgia sending this news out a little bit before lunch, and I'm there's like this camp of very noisy people that don't like Mike Bobo as offensive coordinator. I've always my disclosure here. I like Mike personally. Uh, that's my disclosure. My other moment is he's really good. I mean, I don't know sometimes. Um, I've been texting with people. People didn't want to like Stetson Bennett. There's like this group of Georgia fans, and it's every fandom has this. I'm old enough and have done this long enough to know that there's a group of people that they just decide they don't like something and they're just not going to give up on it. And it doesn't have to do with principle. It doesn't have to do with reality. It's just, I don't like Stetson Bennett or, whatever. And there's a lot of people that I just don't like Mike Bobo, ignoring what he's done really well. I'm going to go straight to the thing that is talked about a lot, which is the 2014 South Carolina game and the first and goal or whatever. Hudson Mason messed that up. Period. Hudson, listen, hey man, if you want to come on the show and say you didn't mess it up, that's fine. I would love to have you come on. That's fine, whatever. But the reality is that was messed up because of the first down decision by Hudson Mason. So that's that. Okay. So we can just kind of go backwards from there. Mike Bobo put up a ton of points while he was the offensive coordinator at Georgia. He literally never had a defense to save his life. Didn't happen. It was not there. And so, folks, you want to. They did not recruit the way they do now at Georgia at the time. They certainly did not have a defense like they do now at Georgia. And again, I'm not trying to insult Hudson Mason, but he was probably Georgia's least gifted quarterback in the Mike Bobo time. All right, you're talking about David Green, DJ Shockley, uh, Matthew Stafford, Joe Cox for a season, and then Aaron Murray, and then for a season, Hudson Mason. I mean, those are some really good quarterbacks, generally speaking, okay? I mean, you say what you want to about Hudson. This is not about Hudson Mason. Hudson Mason had a great, year under Mike Bobo, okay? They went flying up and down the field, scoring 40 points a game, okay? With a very limited passing game. Todd Gurley had the longest pass from scrimmage more than halfway through the season. It might have been the whole season in 2014. And yet, Georgia scored points like crazy. But people, they just can't, they cannot let it go. They want to fight and die on every hill rather than looking forward and looking at what is really happening. Are they scoring points? Yes, the answer is yes, in a big way. People did that with Stetson Bennett too. They could not see what was in front of them. They figured out every single thing that was wrong with Stetson Bennett, and the guy led them to two national championships. Now, Mike Bobo has not led Georgia to any championships. Okay, 2005 as a quarterback coach, 2002 as a quarterback's coach. So if you want to say that, then yeah. Hey, pick up Double Dogs if you're curious about the 2022 season. Everything that happened behind the scenes. This is the book that you're going to want to get. It's going to be out to you. If you order now, it'll be out to you in early March. But Mike was, I feel like and it's a mistake. I feel like I have to defend Mike Bobo because there's so many incorrect perceptions about him. But let me ask you this: if Mike was so bad, why would Kirby Smart be hiring him? I think the answer to that is because he feels like he's the best person out there to call plays for Georgia. I mean, Tom Monken's gone, and these two have known each other for a long time. And I don't think you really want to work with your friends if you can help it. But, Will Muschamp has been at Georgia for some time now, and they've won a couple national championships while Will's been around. So I think you're going to see a different type of offense slightly, and it's not going to be all predicated on Mike Bobo. It's going to be predicated on what you've got. I remember having a conversation with Mike one time when Joe Cox was coming in to be the quarterback. And this was when assistant coaches and coordinators were more made available. Kirby should do that. It's better that way for a lot of reasons, at least the coordinators. And you know, Mike said to me or other people, I know I was there, said, I'm not going to try to get Joe Cox to do what Matthew Stafford can do. We're going to do what the best that Joe Cox can do. And there were times when Georgia really lit it up with Joe Cox. Joe, same thing. Joe, you want to come on the show? I know you're in Alabama though. But you know, Joe Cox was the offensive player of the week against Arkansas. This guy threw 5 touchdowns. He was the player of the week nationally. Okay? So there were plenty of times when, Mike didn't have his best stuff, which were I'm talking about the 2 times right now. Joe Cox was not an elite quarterback. Hudson Mason was not an elite quarterback. But when he had elite quarterbacks, Matthew, when they weren't freshmen, true freshmen, Matthew and Aaron. I mean, Aaron left, y'all. He was the quarterback under Mike the entire time. Mike was his coordinator the entire time. Aaron Murray is still the leading passer in Southeastern Conference history. He's not played quarterback in 10 years. And I don't know if you've seen lately, but the quarterbacks have been really, 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 really good in the SEC lately. Tua, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones, Stetson Bennett. We have been able to watch some really, really good quarterbacks. Johnny Manziel was around during that time. The quarterback whose name I consistently forget, who was back-to-back champions at Alabama, A.J. McCarron. He was there. Mike's offenses work when you have exceptional players. Guess what he's going to be dealing with? Exceptional players. Now, will they go undefeated in 2023? I don't know. I don't know. I don't see any losses that are glaring. I mean, I think you got to go to Tennessee. That's tricky. But Mike's, teams scored pretty well against the Vols through the years. But it's tough to play up at Neyland. And I don't, there's some reporting I did from years ago that I know how tight Kirby and Mike are. I don't think y'all need me to explain it, but I know that they had a lot of long conversations, and they have a particular way of wanting to do it. I also know from my time in dealing with Mike when he was not at Georgia, and even when he was at Georgia, he's never had the players he's about to get. And I'll say inherit. He's inherited these players from Kirby and Todd Monken, and he has inherited these players. He did not recruit. He might the one guy maybe he did not inherit was Gunnar Stockton. All right. But all these other players that are on this team, whether you're talking about, Truss or Van Pran or Lad McConkey, these are not guys that Mike Bobo had a hand in recruiting necessarily. I think that Georgia's chances to win the national championship might be slightly lower now that Todd Monken is not the offensive coordinator, but I don't know how far down we're talking about. I mean, this guy has proven consistently that he can score. And I mean, I'll be honest, I really don't care what people think after a while about this. He's proven it. He's shown that he's as good as anybody around scoring points. The challenge for Mike is that he's replacing someone who now can't do any wrong because they won 2 national championships. I mean, people did really always like Todd Monken. I'll say that. There were not many times when I recall the Georgia fan base really complaining about Todd Monken. They took their complaints exactly to Stetson Bennett, and they did not. Georgia folks are elite at one really thing that is damaged. They are elite at eating their own. They loved carving up their own, and Mike is one of their own. I am old enough to remember Mike being the quarterback at Georgia, and he was not very popular at times then either. So it's what it is. But one time he say, again, I'm not, and a lot of these stories I'm not going to share anymore because he's going to be the coordinator. But I will share this one. One time they had lost to somebody, I can't remember who it was. And we were just walking off the field or somewhere, and I said, "Man, people are pissed." And he said, "Good, it shows that they care." So he's not somebody that has been, you know, he's learned a lot along the way. This is not the same. And I did not know Mike in college. I did not know Kirby, in college at Georgia. Or anything. I don't know Kirby now. But I think with Mike, you're talking about someone who has really lived it in every single possible way. Whether Carson Beck is the starting quarterback or Georgia or not, or whoever the starting quarterback is, Mike is going to be able to um, say, I've been in your shoes before, because he has. I mean, Kirby can say that, but not to the quarterbacks in an acute way. Mike can. Mike can say, "Hey, man, I've lived this bullshit before. I've had people be terrible to me for no reason. I have lived college life in Athens. He gets it in every way." And then he left, and he learned a lot of valuable things at Colorado State, or as he called it, Colorado State. I think he learned um, the burden of pressure of being on your own. I think he learned um, really a lot of the lessons that he kind of couldn't learn in Athens. He had been at Georgia too long, and then he left. He should have left. And Colorado State under Mike was basically what Colorado State's been forever, with the exception of the Jim McElwain years. It's just not great um, situation. But then he came back into the league. Auburn, Brian Harson's a train wreck. I think we know that. But people are going to hire Mike Bobo. They just are. And this is not surprising. I would not be surprised if they scored 40 points a game this season. Todd, Gurley, Aaron Murray, Nick Chubb, uh, you know, what they did not really have at the time were elite offensive linemen. And Brandon Cablano, John Theus, Greg Pike. If y'all want to come on the show and tell me I'm wrong, you can do that. David Andrews. But they had smart offensive players. I'll tell you that. Their offensive line was full of guys who were bright guys, and they would go to the mat for Mike. They would. And people straight up would go to the mat for Mike Bobo. I'll leave you with this. There's an image that I took after the 2012 Florida game. It's of Mike Bobo about to tackle Malcolm Mitchell to the ground. Well, he did tackle him to the ground, I should say. I'm going to get the image up so that y'all can see it. And this is the Mike Bobo that you're getting. Someone that cares this much about Georgia and about the players at Georgia. It was a tense game. And, Malcolm made the play of the game. And you can see right here, I'm going to try to show it on the screen. This is Mike Bobo after the game. You can see the tagline there. And the emotion from Mike after that game was something the likes of which I'd not seen in a while. Here he is with Todd. And him and Todd went back and forth now. But Mike loves his players, and he loves Georgia. And look at that. But the emotion of that night in 2012 was hard. I mean, that night was an emotional night. It was very similar to the national championship against Alabama in 2021. And what you're getting right there is someone that cares. I've never seen another coach do this before, where they care that much that they're putting the guy that won the game for them on the ground and telling them how special that moment was. It was very similar to what Todd Monken told Jalen Carter. Hey, you will never forget this. I guarantee you, Malcolm will never forget the moment where he burst through the tackles to score the touchdown. I guarantee you, Malcolm will never forget that moment. I cannot just draw it straight up here. But that night in Jacksonville was really, I was a dogfight. Now that was a that was a bitter fight, and that reaction from Mike after the game showed how much it mattered to him, and it really did matter. Here's Malcolm right here. Here's the shot. Sorry, sometimes it takes me a second or two to get to them. This shot's a little out of focus, but this was Malcolm. What I called running into history. I will never forget that game. It was amazing, and I guarantee you, Mike Bobo hadn't forgotten it either.